The emphasis today is going to be on pre-production planning. So whenever you've got some sort of video project in the works, you've got to put in the legwork up front to get yourself prepared so that you can get through the actual production, get through shooting and post-production in an efficient way, and that you're, well, just to ensure that you're properly planned out so that you don't have to waste anyone's time during the actual production process. You need to have everything sort of prepared for yourself. So just a few key steps that are really important to remember when planning for whatever type of video shoot you're going to be part of. So let's start off with the brainstorming part of this. Yeah, maybe you've been assigned like a direction that you need to go, some sort of project that you need to be working on. What you need to do is just throw out all the ideas, just sort of tap into your brain and see what sticks, right? It's always good to have more ideas than you're actually going to use, because then you can at least sift through all the good stuff and weed out the bad things. And so brainstorming is really this just like key part of really getting the ball rolling on a project. And I know some of this pre-production stuff isn't as glamorous as actually doing the work, but it's so important, and it really needs to be emphasized that it's just worth your while to put in the effort in this portion of a project. So really maybe it's, you know, an individual thing where you're at least just sort of like thinking through some different things, like for example, if you're doing like potentially like a package on like a news story for a TV station or like that, who are the people that you need to interview? What are your backup plans? How do you contact these people? Where are you going to meet? When are you going to meet? What are the good locations to do the shoot? What types of B-roll is going to be effective in telling the story? Can you anticipate what the answers to some of your questions might be? What are good questions to ask? All of these types of things need to be thought about. In addition to just what are different camera angles that I want to approach these different B-roll shots that I've brainstormed, right? Is it worthwhile to film in any particular frame rate because I might slow down some video footage later or something like that? None of those things would be possible if you didn't actually think about it beforehand. So you've got to be able to very quickly get your mindset going to like, well, how can I be best prepared for this? You need to overthink what the production might be so that you're best equipped to really provide complete coverage of a story or a project. Then you come up with a shot list. And again, these are sometimes not the most glamorous things that people think of, but what you really need to avoid here is thinking about this stuff during the actual shoot. You want to come to the shoot prepared with a list of ideas that you have about what makes sense, what camera angles make sense based on what story you're trying to convey. Is there a narrative? Are you just being informative? Is there some sort of compelling way that you can tell a story? So these are ideas like, well, medium close-up, wide shot, low angle, backlighting, all those kinds of things. You need to be able to think about it and be relatively detailed with. It may not be, you may not know exactly every single thing that is going to present itself, because sometimes things are spontaneous on a video shoot, and I don't want to say that you shouldn't be spontaneous, but you should have a level of preparedness for whatever it is that you've gotten yourself into. So create a shot list that has an idea of, well, I should have this kind of shot on this subject using this angle with this lighting with this color filter. All of those kind of things need to be described and specified on a shot list. Then you may or may not need to actually do some script writing. Depends on what type of project you're working on, but if you're doing some sort of creative narrative, you're going to want to have a script. Doesn't mean you have to follow it word for word or there can't be any improvisation, but a standard script would have, dialogue for different characters and potentially some action written in as well. So that you know exactly what's to be covered. And then everybody that's involved in the shoot, from a director and a producer to camera operators, kind of know what they're getting themselves into and what to expect, and potentially be already sort of framing and composing some shots in their mind. Script writing is an important aspect of the process. But you've got a couple of different versions of script writing, right? So traditional stuff, which I was just sort of talking about, where you think of like a film script or something like that. It's going to have dialogue for different characters along with actions that sort of describe what those characters are going to be doing, right? It's also going to describe what the locations are like, interior, exterior, nighttime, daytime, location, etc. However, we can get even more specific with this, and this comes into play more with like news writing, or if you're doing commercial copy or public service announcements, documentary kind of stuff. Anytime when you actually maybe you collect and shoot an interview, and then you know what content you're working with, but you also want to add some additional B-roll, then what you do is you take a 2-column script, and on the left-hand side, you've got ideas, brainstorms of what the video content is going to be to match the audio content that more than likely already exists. So you can sort of, on the right-hand column, transcribe the audio from an interview, and then on the video column, every time you want to step away from, say, the actual interview footage itself, then you can start to brainstorm some of those B-roll options that you might have, or refer back to your shot list and see what kind of stuff that you were actually shooting, and then insert those little pieces of video during sections of the transcribed audio content. It's not always going to be dialogue either that's written in the audio. It could be timestamps of a particular song or something if you're creating some sort of video content to an instrumental, whether it be a music video or some sort of montage or something like that. The audio content doesn't necessarily have to be transcribed dialogue. It might also be, again, moments of music that are listed as timestamps or something like that. It can also be useful in this pre-production planning to start storyboarding things. It's just a more detailed version of creating a shot list, right? So instead of just describing what the shot might be, this is taking it a step further and really mapping out and visualizing what each component or each composition of each frame is going to look like. So that way, when it comes time to shooting those things, you've already got a great visual representation that you can use as sort of like a guide to help you achieve your goals relatively quickly. So that way you can work through all the different shots that you need more efficiently. It also allows you to sort of categorize which of the storyboarded shots you might be able to film sequentially. It may not make sense actually to film things completely in chronological order. In fact, it might make a lot of sense and be more efficient if you sort of pick and choose specific scenes, specific shots that are like-minded or that have the same location or something like that, and you can shoot all of those things out of order, and then you can create the edit however you need to in the post-production phase. So there's just a couple of things that I wanted to highlight that I think are really important about the pre-production planning. Don't skip over this process. It's worth your due diligence and will make it so much easier for you to complete your shoot and get into the post-production stage if you do a great job here.